Hi, and welcome everyone to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. Today we are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in beautiful New Orleans. Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's always such a joy to be here. And today we have an amazing show for you. And if you're watching this today, it's Thanksgiving. So I wanted to wish all of you a very blessed holiday here in the States. And if you don't watch this on Thanksgiving, it'll be recorded everywhere on every platform for you to enjoy. So thank you. And again, welcome to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. And thank you so much to United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, which we have wonderful listeners on FM as well. So welcome all of you. So what if I told you that the key to ultimate intuition, divine insight, and a profound spiritual connection is not just out there, but it's hidden right in the center of your brain? I know that sounds like a lot, but it's really based in a lot of truth. Today, we're joined by Peter Panagore. He is going to reveal the exact protocol for pineal gland activation, the one thing that's standing between you and unlocking your divine connection. So if you feel spiritually blind, disconnected, or just constantly searching, you're out there listening to conversations, trying to find the truth, Peter will definitely give us some brilliant insight and a roadmap to that. So let's bring Peter on stage. Hi, Peter. Can you hear me? Oh, you can't hear me? Can you hear me, Peter?
Hi, Caroline. Thanks for having me back. Yes, I can. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I think we were lagged there for a
Yes, I
second.
can hear you. But
we're
our
okay.
connection is not great.
Oh, geez. I don't know why that is.
Well, hi, Caroline. Thanks for having me on. And hello, New Orleans and everybody else.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so let's get started with, we've had conversations before, you and I mentioned to you earlier, you're one of my favorite people to talk to. I'm always so inspired by what you've been through and your story, your near-death experience. I watch a lot of your content on social media, and I'm always so inspired by it. And one of the things that I'm always myself on a mission to do is to like decalcify my pineal gland, because I hear that it's fluoridated and there's just so much out there information on what to do to like develop your spirituality through your third eye. So why don't you just do an intro and tell folks quickly, what you've been through and kind of what makes you like the expert in this topic.
Hi, everybody. Back in 1980, I died from hypothermia while ice climbing in the Canadian Rocky Mountains. I made a mistake, and it culminated with a desperate survival effort to save our own lives, which culminated in not doing that. I died, and I crossed over, and I had this very lengthy experience where lots of things happened. I went through a life review, and I wasn't judged, and I went into the light, and it was many aspects to this. Ultimately, I think that the thing that I brought back most particularly from my own journey, which relates exactly to what we're talking about tonight, is that I went into this state of union where myself as Peter, of course, was left behind when I died. But in this state of union, I was super connected, like ethereally connected to the divine, and I was inflated and in a state of union or co-union. It's both at the same time. I wasn't Peter in my identity at all. I was my soul identity, but my soul identity was the divine, but I wasn't fully into the divine. I was in union with it, but there was beyond the light, there was this greater infinite darkness into which I could not perceive, but was infinity itself. And so I had a limitation, even though the light was me and I was the light, and I was still somehow connected and separate at the same time, sort of superpositioned. And then lots of other things happened, and I chose to come back because I saw my parents' life with me and without me, and I knew that I would come back to the state of bliss that I was in. I saw a whole bunch of my previous lives. I saw all of them, but I entered into two of them, and I was at one point um, a ball of plasma, a consciousness, alone but not alone. I was by myself, but I was completely filled. So lots of things happened, and I came back by choice, and we made the last rappel. My climbing partner, I was dead, and he was really surprised that I was not dead suddenly, because he was going to die if I died. And
Mm.
we descended, and then I became an entirely different person. Everything, I still had the same brain. If I had allergies, sniffly noses, and whatever else is good and bad with my body, um, but I was an entirely different person. I was inhabiting this body. And this was
Mm.
back in 1980, when nobody was talking about near-death experience,
Yeah.
and there was no internet, and I didn't even know what had happened to me. I just knew that I wasn't who I was before, and the entire world, it wasn't just that me changed, I changed, and the whole world was different.
Mm.
I could see light inside of every single person, every tree, every blade of grass, rocks. There was nothing that wasn't illuminated. There's intensity of the illumination and living more than in like a cliff, but the cliff's got it too. And I'm seeing this, and I didn't know what to do with it. Long story short, I kept my mouth shut for a long, long time, 20 years. But my life changed so much that I knew that the thing that I wanted most was the oneness of being. And so I began a lifelong exploration of the contemplative literature, East and West, mystical books. I went and I got my graduate degree at Yale in it. And but in my process of studies at the Divinity School, I found tools of the great mystics to try to use. And one of the people, the first person that I stumbled across right before I even went to div school, was Paramahansa Yogananda. And I read the
Mm.
autobiography of his yogi. And in the 25th chapter, he talks about the science of yoga. And I then stumbled, in quotations, into the Yoga Sutra by Pantagali, which I read. And I read a whole bunch of Eastern literature before I went off to the Divinity School. And
Mhm.
in the Eastern literature, I found practices of deep meditation aiming toward union. And previous to all of this, back in 77, I died in 80, but back in 77, I was a senior at a Catholic boys' school, and I I had been I ended up taking. I'm trying to avoid saying that I was suicidal and tried to kill myself and failed. And I the next day took a triple hit of LSD and had an end of duality experience with the I am, that who I am, the isness that is, was in everything, every molecule of existence speaking its voice. And that, before I even died, that transformed me. And shortly after that, within a couple of months, the teacher who taught my senior religion class went off to St. Joseph's Abbey, where Thomas Keating and Basil Pemington, a bunch of these Trappist monks, were developing what they were then calling contemplative meditation, which became centering prayer. My teacher came back and taught us contemplative meditation, centering prayer, and uh, my illumination was, as a result of this LSD thing that happened to me, was led me into silence immediately. All of that is to say, by the time I died, I had already had 3 or 4 years of meditation, of dedicated meditation practice. I died. I came back with this, like, prana energy, which
Mhm.
has a physicality to me. All right, so it's not just that, let's build our prana. Our prana is like a physical thing. It's one of my senses. My seeing, my hearing, my touching, my tasting, smelling, we're all one on the other side. And this energy field, this aura, whatever you want to call it, prana, chi, life force, is a sensory item for me, but it's physical. I feel it.
Mm.
And all of this combined when I read the Yoga Sutras and Paramahansa and my desperation for wanting to go back, I felt like I made this stupid choice of coming
Yeah.
back. On the other side, life is like a snap of the fingers, but from this
Mhm.
side, not so much. And I'd forgotten I was in all healed, well, beauty, bliss, paradise, wellness, majesty, all sorts of stuff, all wound into one thing, joy. And I wanted all of that back. And I was told on the other side that I wasn't allowed to take my own life. And so I came back with this prohibition, and I came back with this deep longing where all I wanted was the oneness of being. And I felt exiled into the world, even though it was my choice to come back. So it turned out that the very desperation that I felt for return, this deep depression that I went into, was the driving force behind what we're going to talk about tonight. And so I had this motivation to get back what I had lost. And I brought back a thimbleful compared to all of the water on the earth and inside the earth and above
Yeah.
the earth in the clouds. And I wanted that back. So what I began to develop, and I was taking pantomime within teachers who had studied with Marcel Marceau's school, and so he taught yoga, and Marcel Marceau did, and I was taking a lot of yoga. This was back in 1980, and I found that this prana energy. Well, I found that it was physical, and I found that I could move it, and I found that I could charge it, and so I began to breathe with my center, kind of combining Yoga Sutra practice and Paramahansa Yogananda, Kriya Yoga, and centering prayer. And I began changing my meditation practice. Previously, in my centering prayer, I was just breathing into my belly, pausing, breathing out my nose, chanting
Mm.
inside my head. Now, what I did instead, this energy was in my belly. I would breathe that up my spine, following Yogananda's advice about the spine being the superhighway, and into my third eye. And so I began this practice of bouncing from my navel beginning to my third eye. Eventually, I switched from my heart chakra to my third eye, and I would just go into my heart or into my navel. I would breathe in with my chant, pause, exhale, filling my spine to my third eye, and back and forth and back and forth. And what I learned is that inside of every single person is the big guru, the divine light itself, the one that Panagore was talking about, the one that Jesus was talking about, not to be mistaken with the stuff that goes on in church, the stuff that
Mm.
goes on in the Gospel of Thomas and other places, Gospel of Mary, and the canonical Gospels as well, but not. He's talking about oneness of being. Make your eye single, and your body will be filled with light. And that's thinking Luke. And so I wanted to make my eye single because I wanted my body filled with light. And so I began this practice of not trying to study, what chakra is this? What's it supposed to do? What's its name? What's its history? I'm not trying to learn about what people think about them. I was trying to activate each individual one, and not
Mm.
by trying to do anything other than follow the advice of Panagore, which is to sit inside that space, not grasping at that space, but I bring my mind to that space, and just the chant controls my brain, my monkey mind. So I learn to be focused. Eventually the chant falls away and you can be just left with breath. And so I bring my breath to this spot and just sit
Mm.
there, and then pause, concentrate, silence, and then breathe down again 10,000 times, 10,000 times. And right up through, the pineal gland, right? So it kind of goes right through there. And the third eye isn't just here, okay? It's got a correspondence at the top of the spine in the back, just like all the chakras do. The chakras aren't just like marbles or dinner plates, tea plates in your heart.
Right. Go
They
through you,
extend,
right?
they go through you. And so in the back, so I began this practice of running up to here, but then to go down my spine, I'd bring my mind across the top of my head, across the top crown, and there's a little pinhole up there too, to the top of my spine. So I kind of go from this part of the third eye to this part of the third eye, down to my heart chakra or my navel, and then pause again, and then back up again, and just repeat it over and over again. Again, not trying to understand them, not trying to feel them,
Mm,
because I already knew that they were real. I knew that they were
mm,
real because I could feel them. So I wasn't like trying to, you know, think my way into this.
mhm.
They had a physicality for me to begin with, and so one of the things that I learned from the Masters East and West uh, is that uh, the presence itself is the gift. That's the gift. Being in the presence itself, that's the thing. And from that one gift, all these other things come. And so instead of trying to ask for anything or trying to figure anything out, I just would try to sit in the silence of this space. That's it. It's simple. It's super simple. And the more I practiced that, the more open it became. And then I saw, you know, the Yogananda has this triangle of gold, and it's got this star. I think it's a star. It's a star with a circle and the kind of flaming. It's
Mhm,
purpley. I started seeing the
mhm.
purple eye, the purple pearl. When I would call it I called it the the purple pearl. So I would see this purple pearl, and I would then begin to focus not only here, but not grasping. I'm not trying to hold this thing. I'm just holding it on open palm. Just open palm, let it rest. And I would bring my mind to that. And then, you know, 10,000 times over and over and over again. And then eventually it just opened up, and it just opened up. And it didn't like, I've traveled through it out. Not, I haven't intended to travel through it out. The practice just did that to me. I wasn't trying to astral project. It just did that. And um, I, the other thing I want to say is that and then I'll shut up for a sec here.
Oh,
Um,
no.
is that I not only don't try to grasp my third eye or any of my chakras, I just try to rest in them. I try to rest in the presence, and I don't try to make anything happen. I don't have a goal. I have a goal. I have one goal, and that's to strip away enough of myself, my a non-attachment to my egoic self, so that
Yeah.
I can rest more fully in the light. That's all I want. That's it. And so, and I'm not putting any parameters on this. Even calling it light is, you know, the
Mhm.
Eastern Orthodox call it the uncreated light, which is a lot closer to the truth. And I find that by not wanting, by then I gain all sorts of stuff. I don't want
Wow.
these things, but that's what happens. And Jesus talked about that, you know, all these things will be added unto you, but they're not things. Some of them are things, but most of them are grace. It's perception. It's the presence itself. It's this gift of where the bubble of heaven in which I live is much larger than my physical space now. And I'm not trying to use it. I'm not trying to direct it. I'm not trying to do anything with it. I just being in it. And being in it connects me to the presence itself. And then all sorts of amazing things happen in my life, which doesn't mean that I don't have terrible things too. Though they happen too. And it doesn't heal my broken bones or take away my sorrow. It leaves me with a consistent peace that's way in the belly of my body that flows through me no matter what's going on. And it doesn't mean that I don't have an adrenaline rush when, you know, somebody cuts me off in traffic and nearly hits my car, because I still have a physical body. But way underneath this, there's this consistent flow. And so this part, this opening here, I then would when this opened, I took that openness, that charge, and I brought it down to my heart again. And so I matched these two things together. And it's because the energy here is the same as the energy here is the same as the energy in your solar plexus,
Right.
the same. And so it's all one energy. But if you can develop it and grow it in one space, you can then move it down or up to another chakra. And it leads. So I'm not I kind of let it fall or let it rise. I don't pull it up. It has its own Well, it has its own strengths of which my physical body have nothing to do with. And the greatest people ask me, you know, you get all sorts of after death experience gifts? Yeah, I have a bunch of things that happen in my life, all sorts of, psychic things and weird things. But that none of those things really matter much to me, as many of them have been difficulties in my life. Lights flashing and computers not working and all sorts of electromagnetic stuff and other things.
Mm,
What really, really matters to me is that I'm not from here. I live inside this thing. Not a moment has gone by since the first day that I died that I do not know I inhabit this form, and that my true self, my higher self, my true self, my real self that I experience now,
mm,
um, that's what I want to cultivate. So Jesus used to talk about not storing up treasures that rust or the moths will eat, go for the pearl of great price. I decided to go for the pearl of great price because as much as I nowadays enjoy living with my family and my friends, and I just came from a dinner party. It was delicious, by the way. And
mhm.
the the presence itself matters the most because that is what I had on the other side. It's where I'm going. I'm trying to create, heaven for myself on the other side, putting cash into heaven. But it's not money. It's not desires. It's myself. And the more the illumination comes here, the stronger I am there. The bigger, I'm much bigger over there anyway, but it's somehow by everybody is, by the way, it's not just me. Okay. I just want to clarify. I'm not anything special in terms of soulness. I'm like everybody else. And like a human being, I'm like everybody else. The only difference is as I saw the other side and it drove me in this new direction.
That's a big difference. That's a pretty, I think it's almost enviable. Like every time I hear you speak, I feel, and I don't mean this in any disparaging way, but I feel like, how am I going to get there before I die? Like, I want to get to where you're at because you just illuminate something so different than the rest of us. And you just do. And I can see it. And from the first time that we spoke, it's just, I can't even put words into it. It's just different. And especially as an empath, you know, I'm very much in tune to that when I see people. And maybe that's why I'm so attracted to always want to be talking to you. Like I could just be sitting here and thinking like, gee, it's been a while since I talked to Peter. I need to talk to him. And it's just like a weird connection thing. Because and like I said, it's almost enviable, Peter. So it is different. And you've been blessed. I think, even though you suffered greatly, I think you've been chosen and blessed, and it's almost like a miraculous thing.
Everybody's going to find out the moment that they die, and yet sooner than everybody thinks. Life is super fragile and very short, and I've dedicated much of my life to trying to help people find this thing inside themselves, however they
Yeah.
conceive it to be, but in particular without conception. But lots of people they need that. But I know I'm not an evangelist at all. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. I am trying to help people discover that what Paramahansa Yogananda said about the science of yoga is right. If you do this, this will happen. That's what science is. It's repeatable,
Yes, absolutely.
right? And when I first came back, I didn't know that. I mean, I was a science head, but I was an English major, so I wasn't like in the chemistry lab. But I I I I bet my life on it, frankly. That he was right, and I'd read enough around in other, the Tao Te Ching and a whole bunch of other places that I had an inkling that he was. And so, if you practice, it will come. And I spent most of my life in silent practice. So I was a Congregational United Church of Christ minister for 18 years, and I practiced. Part of my contract was, and they thought this was weird, but they did it anyway, was that I had to have time to meditate and do yoga. And this is in the days when, what the heck is what's that freaky minister doing?
Right.
And so I didn't tell my wife that I was doing. She knew I meditated, but I didn't tell anybody that I had a goal, and the goal was to find out if Kriya Yoga, as I learned to practice it, actually did what it said it was going to do. And it wasn't until after my second heart attack, after my first heart attack, second NDE, 10 years ago now, when I was doing yoga I practiced on my own physical yoga, but I was going to the yoga studio in town to be social, a bunch of my friends. And so I after my heart attack and I recovered, the yoga teacher came to me and asked me, when I was coming back. And I said, I'm not coming back to class. I'm practicing on my own now. I've got to recover. She said, you got to come back. I was like, oh, well, not really. I love you guys, but I don't really have to come back.
Yeah.
And she said, when you practice with us, and we've never told you this, that you change the energy in the room and everybody knows it. And I didn't know it because the thing about it is they let me practice my own yoga. So I'd go to these classes, I'd be doing vinyasa flow and hot yoga. I'd be in the back corner doing my own thing, and they didn't care. And I was just glad to be there with them. And I waited till people could tell me what I could always feel everybody else. I can feel their energy. It's just came back with me, and it's gotten more intense. The older I get, the more I practice. And I waited till people and then told me that they could see it or it felt it.
Yeah.
And then that summer, like 4 other people told me in totally unrelated circumstances,
Sure.
which, and so then I realized that it actually works. So the practice, because I've stripped away enough of myself to allow it to express itself, not me. Let it talk for its own. And then I decided to teach for 3 years. I taught a Yoga Sutra Kriya Yoga class, a private class online, and lo and behold, it worked for them too. And they're not near-death experiences. 1 or 2 were, but most of them were just seekers in pursuit. And
Sure.
It is totally possible to, with breath and mental focus, to open oneself up to the light itself, not with desire of what I want, but what it wants, what it is, and let it sit inside me and become heaven here now. And so I know for a fact, because I taught this class for 3 years, and most of the people stayed with me for 3 years, every Tuesday, for 90 minutes, and for years, because it worked. It actually does, and it gives you access to. Well, the most important thing is that it creates a non-attachment to self, because the biggest impediment to all of this is the person. I was in my own way. That's why I had to get out of the way to let
We
the
all
light show
are.
through. Right. And so the practice of centering prayer, meditations to silence is effective. It does that with long practice. Combined with Kriya Yoga creates access to the energy field, and
But do you
not to be
have to
manipulated, not to be used to do any kind of thing that I desire.
Yeah. Do you have to practice yoga to have
Do I
your
have what? I'm sorry.
do you have to practice yoga to have your third eye open? I know we're
I don't
lagging.
think you have. Yeah, we're lagging.
Yeah. It's okay.
I don't think you have to practice yoga. You don't even have to practice meditation. You don't even have to have a spiritual life. You don't even have to do anything other than love. You love your baby, you love your mother, you love your friends, you love your dog, you love where you live. Love is the treasure of heaven. That's really, and the moment that you die, like Paul said, in a twinkling of an eye, you're transformed. I was transformed, and I became my true self.
Mm.
And so you don't. All you have to do is love. And uh, I went through a life review. By the time I was 20, I'd hurt a bunch of people in my life, like everybody does, and totally forgiven. All I had to do was accept the light, and so it's available. And if you want it here and now, Cezanne painted. I love to use those as an example. He painted the same mountain over and over again, but for him, it was meditation. And if you ever notice in his paintings, there's white empty spaces where he didn't put paint. There's
Mhm.
empty space in his painting, and he's like all about the mountain and the empty space. But Bach music, uh, meditation, qigong, Zen in the art of archery, anything, anything. You can do it with sewing, the tea ceremony. If you are in full concentration and you're quieting the language of the mind, you're touching or you're giving access to the divine. That's kind of how it works. So you don't have to do it. But I will say this, it totally works. And
Yeah.
if you're, my goal is not this lifetime. I'm not, this lifetime is one of lots of lifetimes. And so I have an overall goal of all
Yeah.
my lifetimes, and it's the same one. So
I love to hear
if
that
not this time, then next time.
next time, yeah. I mean, I love that you said that. I mean, meditation is good, and I do it when I need to do it, and I feel when I need to do it. But sometimes it's very difficult to quiet that, that lizard brain that we've got going on. But why is it that we're told that because our third eye is calcified, that like we're done? It's like almost impossible to, that's not true, right?
I don't. I mean, I have enough science. I've never heard any neurosurgeons say that they found calcification in the pineal gland. I've never heard anybody talk about, and maybe I'm wrong about that. Okay, but
Yeah.
calcium's a real thing.
Oh,
You,
yeah.
you builds your bones, right? So
Right.
maybe I haven't read the right article, but what I think it's metaphorical. But I don't
I
also
think
also
so
don't think it's
too.
I don't think it's permanent. I do know that there are people who are psychopathic, not psychopathic, but there's another similar word for it. It is, and I'm going to go with psychopathic. It's the closest word I can come up with. But it's a person who has actually no emotions. It's not that they can't access their emotions, it's that they don't have any. And they're like biologically, that's who they are. And so I suppose that there are people who are biologically unable to use parts of their, like I'm biologically unable to grow hair on the top of my head. Okay. That's just the deal that I came with. And I know that there are people who are biologically capable in high level mathematics and people who are biologically incapable of spelling. And so that there's just, the brain is a weird thing. And so maybe there are people who can't, their pineal gland is never going to like pop open for them because it's just not going to happen. I don't know, but that seems to be logical. And I I know that those who seek find. That's really what it is. The problem a lot of people have, and it's completely understandable, is that they seek with their knowledge. I've done both, okay? No joke. I've
Mm.
spent my whole life in pursuit of knowledge. I'm a nerd. I'm a mystic nerd. But that's only been as a means to understand the techniques. It's the techniques that matter to me, and the communication to others. It's given me language to speak with, but the practice really makes all the difference. And if you can't, it's hard to control the lizard mind, um, but the brain does rewire itself, and over long periods, rewires it to a place where meditation is no longer difficult. I'm ADHD. Okay, I was born with that crazy brain, right? Impulsive, all the problems that come with that.
Yeah.
Uh, I've trained my brain so that I can hyper focus on my meditation. It and it's not about quieting the brain down for 20 minutes or an hour. It's about quieting the brain down for that one moment in that 20 minutes or in that
Mm.
hour where there is stillness and silence. And in that space, it's like a drop of water into your barrel. So you get a drop of the living water into your barrel and it doesn't go away, right? It swells up the oak, and it's still there. And then another drop and another drop and another drop. And so in every meditation practice, if you have just a moment of silence, it accumulates and it doesn't retract. It continues to stay in its state, and when you add another drop, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's just a function of how it works. And so I know it's hard for a lot of people to meditate. Um, I had a driving force. I was determined because I was bereft of
Mm.
heaven. I was depressed. I was suicidal. I prayed every day for my own death while I was doing this. And I had a driver. And if you can find a driving force, some reason why you really, really want to do this, meditation also makes one uh, a lot less reactive, a lot more responsive, a lot more thoughtful, a lot more present, a lot more in the now. And it's just a function of it. It's not like you have to practice being in the now. You are practicing being in the now in the
Exactly.
meditation, and it kind of spills into your life.
Yeah.
And so I am an advocate for it, and it works.
Yeah. I think you were meaning sociopaths because
Sociopath, that's the word. No, 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 no. Psychopathy.
oh yeah,
Psychopathy.
same kind of
That's the
stuff,
word I was
right?
looking for. Right, that's the
Yeah,
word.
same kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Wha Okay, so my question is this, like, I feel let me tell you quickly. When I was about 15, 16, I was very spiritual back then. Nobody knew what that crap was back then, it was all woo-woo. Right.
Yeah.
It was all woo-woo stuff. But I was attracted and, like, directed to read Cosmic Consciousness by Buck at 15. So I'm sitting on my porch trying to understand what I'm reading, and there wasn't anybody I could talk to about it or ask. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, I got to this one chapter, and something happened to me very divine. I don't know what it was. I just know that it was a divine moment where I got like this download of stuff. Don't know what it was, but it happened, right? And I became like the observer after that. It was the strangest thing, Peter. So it freaked me out that that happened, and I kept rereading the same paragraph constantly, thinking that it would happen again. And I know you could relate to that. And I kept doing it for years and years. And then I finally just gave up and I started reading um all sorts of philosophy and just like I went out there just into the ether of trying to be a seeker. And I'm still that way in my 60s. And I feel like, am I ever going to get there or is it just going to happen in death? And I think a lot of us are frustrated at that because we're on this mission that almost seems impossible.
In this lifetime. But every
Right.
lifetime is an accrual. So as every drop in the meditation life is another drop in the barrel, you know, this isn't probably your first go round with this. You probably have
Mm.
spent a bunch of lives to get to this point.
Oh,
And
geez.
yeah, well, it sounds like you're like, I want this thing today.
Yeah, exactly.
Your soul probably knows better.
Yeah.
But I can understand the frustration, and I wish I had a magic wand, a cure all, but I don't. The closest I can try to do, and I do this a lot, is I let the divine energy, the prana, whatever you want to call it, the shakti, I let it like flow out. I try to become.
Yes.
I'm just trying to be a channel. That's it. Trying to be a channel here, and let the light speak for itself and get out of the way, and maybe give people a taste of it, so that if they have a taste of it, then they can find it inside themselves, or at least gives them enough courage to continue to pursue their task.
Oh, I love that. I love that. But I never really talked too much about what had happened to me because nobody would understand. They'd think I was crazy then,
Of course,
and now they would shrug their shoulders at that. What do you think that was, that moment?
you
Was
had
that just
you had a mystical experience. To become the witness state is it's a profound state of understanding. It's not nothing. Adyashanti, I don't know if you know the Buddhist Adyashanti.
I've
He's
heard of.
okay. So, but Adyashanti, he talks about the witness state. It's all over the world. The witness state is when you get to be the observer of life rather than not being the witness. Now at least you
Yeah.
know that you're not that. And that's a big deal. And yeah, it transformed you, right?
Yeah.
Set
Oh
you on a path.
God.
You made the
Changed me forever.
mistake lots of people make, though, is that trying to get the same thing that you got before, because you're
Yes.
never going to get it. Never comes again the same way. It's
No.
infinite. It can come 1,000 different ways, but it'll never be the one that you got before. And it probably will build on whatever experience that you had previously. And maybe you only get one experience. Like Mother Teresa of Calcutta apparently only had one experience.
Oh,
Um,
is that right?
that's what I've read. And then she went to Calcutta and did all these things because of it. There are other people, and I'm one of them. I've had lots of experiences. Why I was talking to this guy tonight, and he's in Sydney, Australia, on my drive home from the prison where I'm working as a chaplain. And I was talking, and he's in Sydney, and he's an expert in Bhagavad Gita and the Vedanta, and he reads Sanskrit. He's from India, and so we
Wow.
had this very deep conversation about lifetimes, many lifetimes, and what that's like, and how lifetime after lifetime, you move to a state where you can, if you're in pursuit, which I think a lot of people are, like yourself, where this lifetime you get to this point, and then next you kind of accrue enough here, and the next time you get a little further on, and if one takes the perspective of not this lifetime, it gets easier. And I know that that's really hard without the perspective of your own eternal nature, which is kind of, together. You kind of get the two together. Um, I, my problem was not going this way, reaching up. My problem was trying to like grab down to the soil and become like, oh my gosh, I having a hard time integrating here. So it's been confusing for me that people, for a long time, it was confusing that they couldn't see what I could see. Why can't they see this? Why is this?
Mm.
Why are they blind to this? And then I applied my thinking, and I thought, well, where are they in this lifetime? Well, they're where they are. Where they are, and next time around, should they accrue light, as I'm sure you have, and I know that it's frustrating, Carol Ann, that you have to wait to the moment that you die.
Yeah.
But you didn't. You had this experience, and not everybody gets that. And it changed the course of your life, and it's still changing the course of your life, and you're still in pursuit of it. You're in pursuit of the oneness of being. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, and I don't know this about you, and I suspect that it's you haven't pursued the idea of it. You're really after the thing of it itself, because that's what showed it to itself. It showed itself to you.
Yeah, it did. It truly did.
Yeah, and that's and so lots of people start grabbing at knowledge instead of the thing itself, and the thing itself gave you a gift, and it's not in the book, it's not in the paragraph, it's actually
Right.
in the experience itself. And so every mystical experience is actually like a little window into heaven. And if you bring your meditation mind to that place, which I'm sure you still can find, because it's still in you, and it's impacting your life until today. If you bring your meditative mind, rest in that space, it's a doorway back to where you came from. And it,
Mm.
and it's and it works. You find out for
Why do
yourself. You give it a try.
Yeah, why do you think we have to work so hard for what seems to be what we are?
Oh, it's not just us. We're so humanocentric, anthrocentric. We think it's all about us. It's not. We're like just another biological form with a capacity for self-reflection. You know,
Oh, gee.
just this week I've been following this. There's this long experiment going on with sperm whales, and they've been recording them 10,000 hours, and just this week I read the latest on it, and they have syntax. these whales, they are talking to each other, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
have vowels. They
Gee.
have sounds that are like vowels. They haven't decoded them yet, but these are super intelligent animals who probably ask the same questions we do.
Oh,
Like,
goodness.
why did that shark eat my baby? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
uh, and not only that, it's not just Earth. Earth is just like
Right.
this little tiny. I love your backdrop here. It's the starry sky. Most of those aren't stars. Most of those are galaxies.
Yeah.
And in those galaxies, there's all these stars with all these planets. Why is it so bad for us? It's not just bad for us. The whole place, the entire structure of the universe is a limitation of the divine. And to have its existence is to be in the physics of the place, which also comes with this blindness. Because the brain, the egoic nature of the brain is the reason why we survive as a species.
Mm.
you know Knowing self, even in the earlier back in earlier human years, when the individual identity wasn't as pronounced as it is now in the West. It's much the Japanese culture is more reflective of the community based identity. Well, that was
Mhm.
even deeper in earlier tribal structures, because the community is what survived, and that also had egoic self. And so there's this idea, of course, that without that we wouldn't have survived. And so we need this part of ourselves, but it has a downside, and it masks our true nature. So you got this one thing over here that
Yeah.
creates the possibility for the biological survival, but it also masks the spiritual thing. But you can't. And so why does it have to be this way? I don't know. It just is. And rather than
It
shake my fist, I go in pursuit. And I know that I have the advantage of knowing that when I die, all's going to be great. I know that it's not a
Yeah.
belief; it's just the way it is. And so, if I spend this lifetime in pursuit, and I don't get to the place where my mind melts to be in bliss in this lifetime, maybe next. I don't know. Maybe there won't be a next.
I asked a very spiritual person that question, and she looked at me and she said, I said, why are things the way that they are? It's similar to what I asked you. And she looked at me and she said, because. And that just like resonated with me. It made so much sense, in a way. It's just the way it is, right? It's just the way it is.
Yep.
Um, I have to ask you about Three Eye Atlas. I know you've been reading about that and following it. What are your perceptions as to what that is in terms of a spiritual being that you are?
I I haven't. I've only been following the science. I know that what the guy from Harvard was saying, and I've been following what they're saying at NASA. And I know that not everything comes out in the news. Um, NASA is supposed to drop some news tonight about this issue of propulsion
Yeah.
around the sun, and so I'm following it closely. Spiritually
Yeah.
speaking, if we didn't have telescopes, we wouldn't have seen it. And how many of these
Right.
things have passed through before? We don't have any idea. All we know is that
Exactly.
so far, 3 of them have passed through. I never look to the stars for my spirituality. I mean, I'm a UFO experiencer, and 3 times in my life, it's I know that they're real because I saw it with my own eyes. But I don't look to the stars for my spirituality. I don't look to objects. I don't look to books. I don't look to religion. I look to the presence itself. And so I don't need to attach my spirituality to an idea or a concept. And I understand why that's helpful to a lot of people. I work in a prison, and I'm the chaplain in the prison, and there's a lot of people in the prison who are believers. There's 22 religions in the prison, and I kind of
Mm,
oversee these religions. Religions, some I never even heard of. And I spent my
wow.
lifetime studying these things. So, and there's belief. And a prison is like uh, like a a pressure tank, and people grab onto beliefs in a community for stability and for
Sure.
values, and that has a lot of value. That has a lot of value. Um, but it's all up here,
Yeah.
and really it needs to be here in the heart and down in the belly, and all three, right? but not just this. Experience matters the most. And so with Three Eye Atlas, I'm following it like everybody else. Well, lots of people are. I lean heavily towards science because that's the way I am.
Mhm.
And so I'm waiting to see what the telescopes tell us and what the mathematics tell us. But in terms of its spirituality, um, is it an alien ship? It could be. I don't know. We were waiting to
Yeah,
find that out, right? We don't know.
yeah,
But
if they
is
tell
it,
us.
or is it just a physical phenomenon that we tiny little humans in our little corner of the universe had never imagined existed? And that's a real possibility.
That is
Um,
a real possibility. Absolutely,
my
absolutely.
grandparents were born in the days when nobody even knew that a galaxy existed.
Yeah, think about that. You never told me, you mentioned that you had, um, encounters with ET, I guess, or crafts or UAPs, whatever you wanna call 'em. What
UAPs.
could you tell us what that was like?
Yeah, I had 3. 2 of them were more recent, and one, the most intense one, was back in '77, that same summer that I learned meditation, the same year I took LSD that first time, and a huge hit, triple hit. And so, short story, I guess, I was a camp counselor in Ohio. I'm from
Mm,
Massachusetts. I don't live there now, but I was a camp counselor in Ohio at a Catholic boys camp because I went to Catholic school. And so I convinced the head of the camp to let me take the camp car out one night and go roller skating with a bunch of these camp counselors who were from all over the United States. I didn't really know them. And so we went roller skating at the roller rink. And then the next week, when I asked to go roller skating again, we went to the package store. Well, I'm sorry, that's Massachusetts. We went to the liquor store and bought, 3.2 beer. And so we drove up this, Ohio is perfectly flat where we were anyway. We drove up this knoll on the top of which was a park overlooking this river and the Maumee River. And I had some cannabis with me, and we had some beer, and we put on cassette tape, like I think it was like the Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young or something.
oh, nice.
And I'm just about to light the bowl up, and I hear a beer pop in the back seat, and suddenly the entire parking lot was illuminated like daylight. And
Whoa.
and we're like, it's the cops. We thought we were
Right,
busted, right? And I'm driving, and we're like, we're good Catholic boys. We have to give ourselves up. Let's just get out of the car, hands up, and just like admit to everything. And
right,
so
right.
so we all, and I was like, slowly open the doors up, and everybody gets out really slowly, and we all stand up, and we all look behind us, and there's no cop car behind us. And but the entire area is lit up, and we all kind of look together. We all look, all our hands are up. We all look up, and there is this huge white light, twice the height of the treetops above us,
No
and it's like a
way.
quarter mile wide. This thing is
What?
huge, and it's perfectly silent, and it's right above us, and there's not a cricket making a noise, no birds, no rustling. It's start totally silent, and we're like, "What?" And then, of course, we're slowly kind of, it's not the cops, but it's a UFO, and we're all jumping up and down, and it just started to drift away. And so we're like,
Did you
"Get back in the
see it?
car."
Did you
Huh?
see the craft or
Oh,
did
we
you
saw the craft. It was like
you
right
saw it?
th
Oh,
yeah. Oh,
wow.
it was humongous, and we could not see it. It's like filled the entire night sky. I was looking like this, and in order to see the stars, I had to tip my head like almost level with the ground to look way out in that direction to see the stars. It was huge. And so begins to drift off. I like, let's get in the car. We'll follow it. So I'll pile in the car. We go down the hill, and we throw all the weed, the pipe, the beer, everything goes out of the windows because we're gonna go after this thing. And so I floor it. We're totally sober, all right, because I didn't smoke any weed. Nobody had any beer. We're 100% sober, and I'm hanging out the window looking at this thing. I'm driving. Everybody's hanging out the windows, kind of sitting up and looking on top of the car. And we're doing 80, 85. And
Wow.
it's ahead of us over these corn and soy fields through this farmland. And we go blowing through the middle of camp. And it's nighttime. There's hopefully nobody's up, nobody sees us, nobody saw us. And we get a couple of miles past the camp, and we're doing like 90. And we came to a right angle road. There's a road turns to the right, and it goes across the river into the town. And we get to this, and we're not right behind this thing because it's going, it's further ahead of us, but we can see it. It's huge. And it made a right angle turn and it didn't decelerate. It was doing 90 miles an hour at this point, and then it was doing 90 miles an hour at that point, no braking, right angle turn. And we go zipping right by. And so I slammed on the brakes. I spun the wheel to the left, and I dropped enough speed, and we went off this like gully over this embankment down into this farmer's cornfield with like knee-high corn. And I punched it, and I did this big kind of slide to try to re-aim the car. I'm praying to myself, praying to God, oh my God, let's not get stuck here in the middle of this guy's cornfield. And we ripped it up. I feel bad for this farmer, but we ripped up his field, and we hit the embankment. We flew up into the air. We landed, and it was waiting for us like a half a mile ahead.
What?
And so we're flying down the road, and now it's pretty high up in the atmosphere, but it's just like right there, and we could still see the light coming down, and we get just about underneath it, and it shot off out of the atmosphere, like out of the atmosphere. It went so fast that it left a trail of light behind it. Like the photons couldn't catch up. It was just like,
oh my
and so
goodness.
we're like, what? And so we pull the car over, and cars get corn stalks sticking out of the wheels, and underneath we're pulling out the corn stalks. And I didn't really know these three guys. I knew the guy in the front seat, but these three guys, they were new to me. And so we made this pact that we wouldn't tell anybody because we were breaking the law. And so we go back to camp and we talk about it among ourselves, that kind of thing. And I kept my mouth shut. I kept my mouth shut until 97 or whenever it was. No, it was after
Wow.
97. It was when the Pentagon came out with their first tapes of the crafts off of San Diego that are still being shown on the internet. When those came out, I was like, I'm going to tell people about this, because now it's not tinfoil hat. Now it's the freaking Pentagon. And
Right.
so I made this video, and I'd long since lost touch with these guys, long decades ago. Make this video. About a year goes by, I get this phone call, and there's a woman. She's, is this Peter Panagore? I'm like, yeah. She says, I'm so-and-so. And I worked in the kitchen at the camp, Divine Word Camp, it was called. And she said, I saw this video that you did about the UFO. Those guys told me about this. And even though, so they didn't keep the promise to keep their mouths shut, they told her, because one of them is best friend, which I didn't know. And so she put me in touch with these guys. And so this is maybe 5 years ago now. We had a long conversation about that night. And, well, at the time, when I made the video, I didn't know what happened to these guys. So that's one story. So then a lot of time goes by, years and years and years. And I'm sitting in my backyard here, and we've got a fire pit. I live in Maine. Lots of people have fire pits up here. And we
Yeah.
sit around the fire. So we get a fire pit out back, and I got a buddy in, one of my best friends from divinity school. And we're sitting around having some wine, talking. My wife's out of town, his wife's away. And he says, strike a pose. I'm like, okay. Because he likes to take pictures. So I flop back in my chair, and right over my head is a big, huge orb, gigantic. And it's a moonlit night. So there's the moon up there, and below the moon are these wispy clouds flying by, and it's between the clouds and the moon, and so I can see the stars, and the wind was coming. I live on the ocean, and the wind's coming out of the east, going really fast. These clouds are flying by, super fast, and this thing was moving on this straight line trajectory against the wind, no visible propulsion. It kind of looks like a plasma ball. And it's just going, and we got a video. I shot it. My buddy pulled out his camera. We shot a video of it, and so he's like, "Oh my God, Peter, you told me that you had seen a UFO, and I didn't really believe you, but now I know." And so then the third time, I was with my brother in his convertible. We were on Cape Cod. My parents were from the Cape, and my brother lives on the Cape. And so we're driving by the Hyannis Airport, which, if you know Cape Cod, this is how we do it in Massachusetts. You go to Cape Cod, there's Provincetown. And so we're in the Bicep, which is where Hyannis is. And we're on Route 6, and my brother's talking about something or other. And right by the airport, and I look up, and there's a Delta craft, big black triangle with big lights underneath it, putting along like a snail. just
What?
going super slowly right over our heads. And I'm like, "Dave, look, 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 look." And he didn't even hear me. And it was, no visible means of propulsion. And it was as if it was a balloon going so slowly that it was just hardly moving at all. And so I haven't met any ETs. Oh, I had a dream when I was a kid. I had a dream when I was an adult of when I was a kid that the all of the kids in my neighborhood, including my sister, one of my sisters, were all in like a semicircle, lying with our feet facing in one direction, shoulder to shoulder, in a craft. And in the middle of this craft was this like a console, and we were kind of on our back, spread around it, and it was white, very white, and there were these two, three tall, thin, human-looking people, but very tall, good-looking, and one of them was waving this device over our heads. And when she came, it was a female woman, and she came over me. She said, "You won't remember a thing," and that's where the
Wow.
dream ends. And so I'm
Are you
like,
sure that was a dream?
it was a. I dreamed this, but when I woke up from this dream, I was like, "Was that a dream? What was that?"
Right.
And so then there's one more thing. There's this guy named Rudolf Schild. And Rudolf Schild is an astrophysicist at Harvard Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics. And he was a friend of mine. And my friend was telling him about me, and he invited me down for lunch one day. So I went down to Cambridge and I had a 5-hour lunch with this guy. And he said, among many other really super smart stuff, great conversation, he said that he believed that there was this correlation between near-death experiencers and UFOs. He
Yes,
said a
I've
lot of,
heard that.
and there's a movie coming out now about that subject. He's going to be in it. I'm in it. A bunch
Wow.
of people are in it. It's a documentary, but there does seem to be some kind of correlation. What that is, I don't really know. But that when I talk about human beings, not being the only ones, that's one of the reasons why, because we're not alone, and we haven't been for a very long time. And people are afraid,
Yeah.
like, oh, is it going to be
Yeah.
like end of the world? Nah, if they could have had the power to destroy us, well, they would have.
Right.
They
I believe
haven't.
that.
Um,
Absolutely. I have to ask you this because a lot of what I'm hearing is this fight that we're in between good and evil, and how these satanic forces are like showing themselves. And this is the battle, like this is the battle we're in between good and evil, between like Satan and Christ consciousness, how whatever verbiage you want to put it in. Is there, I mean, of course there's darkness and light, I mean, obviously, but do you think there's an actual entity or Satan, and like a being, or just do you think it's just human negative energy, like people that are just choosing the wrong path and they're choosing to be evil?
oh, I think there are people who choose to be evil, and people
But is
have been.
evil a force? Is it an actual, I mean, we hear about possessions and all this stuff, but or do you think it emanates from the human entity?
I don't know the answer directly, but I can say this: that during a period of my life, a long period of my life, I would have those dreams. I'm blinking on the word hypogenic. No, where you're frozen and you're kind of between awake and asleep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. Cryogenic, something like
Something
that.
like that, yeah. Hypnogenic.
Cryogenic, yeah, where they
Yeah,
freeze you.
I can't think of the name. And so, in that state, I'd be attacked by a dark entity. And it was like a two-dimensional being that would emerge from a deep darkness that wanted to eat my soul. And
Now
it
wait,
would
this was a
super
dream?
seductive.
This was a
Oh
dream?
no, this is no dream. It was in the state between awaking and sleeping, and I'd be paralyzed, and it would come
Oh,
and
god.
it, like a succubus try to seduce me,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like
yeah.
super seductive, but also incredibly evil. Now, whether
Mhm.
this was a projection of my own mind, my own subconscious, and it was a real, the darkness of myself coming to consume myself or
Yeah,
something. I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
I don't know where it came from, but I do know that the first time it came, and then every other time it showed up. The first time it came, I didn't know what to do, and it was on me, touching me, trying to come into me, and I called on the light, and the light banished it. And
Mm.
the light ban that was my, because I have I use the same prayer chant forever. It's like running in my head all the time. So all I have to do is kind of, in my dream life, chant that chant, and I'm protected. The light banishes it. So that's one thing. I think that it's a very, there are a lot of other universes. It's not just our universe. There are a lot of other dimensions.
Oh,
I
yeah.
saw, I saw them being created when I was dead, and we're not alone. And so, is there a Satan? I don't know, but I think that, why focus on that when you can focus on the light and not have a problem? Um,
Right.
so I focus on that, but I do think that there are people. I think that people can be possessed, but
Yeah.
mostly, I think that there are people who are super malignant, dark triad narcissists, and with no emotions, that are so attached to their egoic selves that just don't care about other people, and they'll destroy the world because they can. Pol Pot, and the Khmer Rouge, Adolf Hitler, Joseph
Sure.
Stalin,
Yeah, there's a
with
bunch
King
of them.
Leopold. Yeah,
Yeah.
yep. And not just world domination, but little local domination too. There are definitely people who like the darkness, and they
Oh, yeah.
and so, is there a war against it? And should I be out there, as a warrior fighting against it? I let the light do it. I'm after the
Yeah.
light, and let the light is the light. Everything that there is, no thing that exists, including any darknesses there are, including the malignant narcissists, that exists outside of the divine. Everything is part of it, and the love loves itself. This infinite, unlimited, and then people are like, well, if God loved the world so much, then why is it so terrible? Well,
Right.
it is kind of terrible, but there's also a lot of great stuff too. And love
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
the treasure itself.
Yeah. There's this kind of like, I don't want to call it a debate, but a lot of people are spreading this um, fake news story. I don't know what the hell it is, but they're saying that when you die, right, and you see the light, that's a trap,
Yeah.
and that it's just to keep you in a reincarnation loop. So
Yeah.
when you die, you're supposed to avoid the light. What do you think about you? I know you've heard that whole thing too.
I don't think a single one of the people who've talked about it actually experienced it. If they
Yeah, what? Like,
experienced it,
why
they
spread
would know.
that?
Well,
Right.
because they, who knows, they have their own malignant desire
Yeah.
for some sort of fame and power, some sort of identity. But I've seen some of these people on YouTube and elsewhere, and I haven't encountered one who's actually encountered the light itself, because the light is self evidently the light. I mean, there's like
Right.
anybody who's the how many hundreds of millions of near death experiences are there in the world who've encountered the light, and they're like,
Yeah.
no, that's the light. um,
Right. Right.
and
Yeah.
so,
I mean, it's self-evident, right?
yeah,
I don't
it
know
was.
why. Sometimes I think it's a psyop that they do it on purpose because maybe there's going to be gullible people that will not. I mean, can you run from the light when you're having an NDE, or are you just propelled towards it? Like, how does that work?
Well, there's plenty of people who have had hellish experiences, who were rescued out of these experiences through the light of some form, and there are people who had hellish experiences who weren't rescued out of by the light. Maybe they weren't dead long enough in order to
Oh,
get out. But all of them who come back are different people. They
yeah,
reformed, they've transformed. Um, I found the light to be irresistible. Like, it was, even when it was my own attachment to my own shame for the wounds that I had caused in my life, to other people, that was in my way of the light, because I was looking at myself. And but the light was, myself was the size of a little tiny marble, and the light was the size of our solar system.
Wow.
And it was and that powerful. That wasn't just big.
Yeah.
It was that powerful, and it was irresistible. How could I resist it? I couldn't resist it. I didn't want to resist it. But I don't think I suppose if I had continued to look at myself and my own shame, my own darkness, then maybe I could have lasted at that, because this is eternity, right? So there's no time. It's has its own existence. So can someone resist? Maybe. I don't know. I couldn't.
I don't
With
know
someone
why
like,
you would.
why would you? Well,
Exactly.
because and it wasn't like it was seeing the light was then going to send me. Well, it's kind of hard to explain that, but I I was already in a hell that I had made, and the light took me out of it. Why would I not go? Why would I
Yeah.
not accept this? Right?
Exactly. Why do you think that after your ND, how long was it where you were suicidal? Where you like, I regret, I just want off this planet. Like, how
20
long of a time span was that?
20 years every
Oh,
day.
wow.
Yeah, and every day I prayed for my death. I would do my meditation, do my yoga, and then end it or begin it with, "Today's a good day to die. Can you take me home today?" I felt like, you ever watch that cartoon when you were a kid back in the '60s with Mr. Peabody?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
and then the wizard would say, "Tweedle twaddle twiddle twum, time
Yeah.
for this one
Yeah.
to come home." And I'm like, "Yes, take me home today. Take me home today." I wasn't making active plans. I thought a lot about different ways to kill myself, but I didn't, which is of course a big sign of suicidal ideation. But I also had this prohibition. I wasn't going to do it. And I didn't do it. But every day, it wasn't until um it wasn't until my second time I died that I finally got over wanting to
I
go home.
remember you said that. Yep. Do you think it was God that told you you're absolutely prohibited to kill yourself when you
Oh,
had your
yeah,
NDE? It was God. It was God. It was the voice of God.
and it wasn't just my body. It was like, you can't it was like, "You can't kill yourself. You didn't even make yourself. You can't even make
Oh,
yourself."
wow.
It was just so, like, snarky, and it wasn't just my body, it was the soul, my eternal nature. When I was dead, I I understood my eternal nature was being called into being, and had been called into being eons and eons and eons ago, and was always being called into being by the divine, not me. I didn't make me. I didn't even make my soul. I'm an aspect of the holy, and that caused my little portion of it to exist and continues to do so. And so when it told me I couldn't take my life, it didn't mean just my human life. It's like my whole. It can't kill my soul. And so it was a section of a much larger understanding, but it was a section that prevented me from killing myself, taking my life.
Yeah.
Um,
Because it like knew that you were going to be thinking that for 20 years and you knew that you couldn't do that. Like that
yep,
it was just prohibited by God himself.
yep.
That's crazy stuff.
Yeah, which is why you don't talk about it, right? So here we are
Right.
in this safe environment with these talking to each other, talking to all these people who are interested in this. But for 20 years, I was not only suicidal, I kept this a secret. I kept it a secret because I didn't want anybody to think I was crazy. Near death experience, the whole thing. It wasn't just Kriya Yoga,
Of
everything. I kept
course.
all of it.
And
Um,
especially if you start talking about suicide, I mean, that's, like you said, it's an ideation. They'll come and put a white coat on you and take you somewhere.
yeah, betcha they
No, and
will.
the trippy thing is, after my husband died, I never thought about walking off the planet ever in my whole life. Never, not once did I ever have any suicidal thoughts. After my husband died, which is 4 years ago this month, um, I started getting this little voice in my head saying, "You don't need to be here anymore. Your soulmate's gone. Just kill yourself." That kind of thing. And it was every day, Peter, every day. And I would just go, devil, get behind me. And I would just pray. I would try to pray it out. I heard the devil or those evil entities don't like Psalm 23. I would just try anything And it worked. And I really felt that it was a malignant force that knew I was in a state of grief and was trying to like work at me, work at my soul. And when it saw that it couldn't do its job, it just stopped because it just did. It was weird.
I'm glad that you didn't. And
Thank you.
it because there's this Richard Bach wrote this book, Jonathan Livingston Seagull, maybe a
Oh,
long
I
time ago.
love that.
And he
Yeah.
wrote another book called Illusions, Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah. And in it, he said, I think the book starts out with this. How do you know when your mission on earth is done? If you're alive, it isn't.
Right. That's good.
Yeah, it's like,
That's good.
he was a near-death experiencer too. And that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
So you got stuff to do. You're doing this show. You wouldn't be doing this show, this podcast, touching all
Yeah,
these
and
people.
I right, and I know it's wonderful. It reaches so many people and they get to hear voices like yours, and we're so blessed for that, Peter. What are you working on? I mean, I know you're working at this prison, and God bless you for that work, because we were talking about a little bit more in detail earlier before we started the show. It seems like you've just been guided to just do good work for other people since your NDE. It just, I mean, just based on our previous conversations too. So you've really devoted your life to like doing good work for other people. Even you taking the time to do this podcast. So I know you're consumed and so busy with that, but are you working on another book or have any thoughts about writing another book? Like what's going on in your brain right now?
Well, I'm 50 hours a week at the prison right now, including my commute, and so it's just sucking up all my time right now. But
Oh yeah.
I have 9 chapters completed on my next book, and I've probably
Oh,
got probably 11 chapters left. But finding time to do that now, I didn't plan on taking this job. It just the door that it presented itself, and then I was like, oh, this is interesting, and so I spent 2 hours writing my CV and my cover letter, and I didn't really put a lot of effort into it.
yeah.
Um, and here I am. Okay, so I'm doing this thing now,
Wow.
and so I walk through open doors. But I want to find time to finish this book because it kind of wraps around Heaven is Beautiful, because it tells my early life of my mystical life, and the point isn't about me. It's not me, my. It's the point is to show that people have mystical experiences, and they're pretty common, and that they change people's lives.
Oh yeah.
It's transformative, and so I've got the first I've got all the first chapters done. I might add one more chapter in there, and then uh, I've had a lot of crazy experiences as a result. So it's not just about mysticism and mystical experiences. It's about um, living life as this kind of person. Uh, You talked about doing good work my whole life, and I definitely my whole career is about helping other people.
Yeah.
But it's put me in some pretty crazy situations. Someone tried to smash my head in. They tried to kill me. They've been involved in decapitations and murders and all sorts of crazy, but all sorts of stuff. Like it's just like nuts. My ministry life. When I left ministry, this crazy ministry I was working as a church, like a rural Maine church pastor in the middle of all sorts of, I felt like like a TV show where there's this British show where this detective kind of gets on this Caribbean island. He thinks it's paradise. It turns out that it's not.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that. And I want to write all those things out because I want people to understand. I'd like people to understand that there is a superpower in knowing one's destiny. And I know my destiny. My destiny is I go back to the light. And because I know that, it puts me in a very different mindset as I go about my life. And which is why now in the prison,
Yeah.
I don't walk around afraid. I mean, I have martial arts training, and I'm in martial arts again, and so I feel like physically I'm okay, but I'm not afraid of these guys. Why would I be afraid of these guys? They all have light inside of them. Even the psychopaths, even the narcissists, they all have light inside of them. Um,
Yeah.
um, so that's my major project right now is working in the prison, but I will write more because I love to write.
Yeah.
And so I'll find time to do that in the next year or so, um, God willing.
Oh, you will. I mean, there's such a like I said before, there's a divine purpose for all of us, but it's just so amazing to me how I can see that and we can see that in certain people more so than other people. And it's not like that you're not you are special, of course, but it's not that you're different in terms of your humanness. But there's something so very special about your experience here. Do you think that when you pass, when it's your time, that you will reincarnate again? Or do you think that there'll come a point where God will say, thank you for your service. You're now one with the light forever? I mean, I don't know.
Well, I kind of hope the latter, but
Yeah.
in this conversation with this Vedanta Gita expert today in our talk, one of the reasons why he called me is because he wanted to tell me that there in the Vedantic tradition, there's a step wherein the bliss that I experienced of no self, I had no self experiences after my NDE while I was alive, and that experience can become a permanent state where the physical active mind ceases to have any strength
Right.
over a person. And so, and he was saying that that's like the next step before you don't have to come back. And so I thought, oh, that's interesting. I mean, I've read the Vedas and I've read the Gita, but I never really kind of put that together. And so I don't know. I'll come back if it's okay. If I come back, it's okay. But I also know that I'm an eternal being, and most of me is not even here. Most of me is still traveling toward the light, um, and and that'll continue on whether I incarnate again or not. Do I want to come back? No. Why would I want to come back here? But would I come back here if I would be able to come back here with what I know? If I could come back with what I know and know more and help more, maybe I'd come back for that. Um, but who knows? I don't
Yeah,
know if I have a
it's
choice.
it's almost sad that we can't come back with that memory, with that remembrance. But I don't know, I guess it's God's divine purpose that we don't.
Yeah, but there are people who have come back who grow into their memory in full. Like
Like
you get
you, maybe
the
like you, right?
well, I wasn't thinking of me. I was thinking of Gautama Buddha, and maybe
Oh,
Jesus and those folks, Rumi maybe, and people like that. But they come back with enough that I'm sure that I came back with enough that set me up for this lifetime. You know,
yeah.
it's been a pretty weird experience. Lots of mystical experiences, and every one of them transforms me. I become a different person. Like I'm still me, but I'm like
Yeah.
not me anymore.
I mean, in a way, that has to, like, be annoying that people are so compelled to wanna talk to you and be around you, and 'cause there's gotta be a lot of people that sense that around you in physical space, right?
I live in a very rural place on purpose.
Yeah, no, seriously,
Seriously, I do. And
yeah.
and in my town, I've lived in this town for a long time, and we have a great community here. And I was at a dinner party before I came here tonight, and some people that I really care for, and everybody loves me, and I love everybody. Nobody cares. That's the best part. Nobody cares. They love me,
Yeah.
and they invite me to their parties, and my wife too. And but I live in a rural place on purpose. I'm hard to get to. I live at the end of the end of the end of the road, and that's because I like my quietude,
Yeah.
and so we'll see what happens in the prison. Um, and I liked being in cities. I want to say I'm not disparaging to cities. I liked being in New York. I like Boston, but My friends not only are my community of human beings, but I live a lot of animals around us, wild animals. They're all my buddies. The crows and the raven and
Oh,
chickadees
love
and
them.
nuthatches
Yeah,
and that's good for me.
absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Peter. You know, I'm going to be hitting you up again in a few months. I hope you can squeeze an hour or two to come back and talk to us.
I'd be happy to, Caroline, and I appreciate you having me here. Um, you ask great questions. We have great conversations.
We do. I miss it. Like I told you, I just get this like I gotta reach out to him. Just out of nowhere it'll hit me. And I was thrilled to have you back, and you're welcome here anytime. I mean, if you had the time, you'd be my co-host. You
Thank
truly.
you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. Much love to you and your family, and have
Thank you.
wonderful holidays.
You guys too. Peace to everybody.
And peace to everyone. I'll be in touch after the holidays.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Wow, I absolutely am like after I talk to Peter, the whole rest of the evening for me is in a different mental state. It's just I can't even explain it. Um he's just got such an impact on people, and I know you guys feel it too. I've had people email me and ask me to have Peter back. So I know you guys feel it too. Just blessed to be able to share space with him. Absolutely. But thank you so much again, Peter. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. And thank you so much for tuning in. You've been listening to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 on the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM in New Orleans. So we hope that that helped you shift your perspective a little bit, maybe open up your third eye, try some yoga practices, maybe do some more meditation, listen to Peter's advice. I know I'm going to be doing more of that, focusing on my breathing, directing my breathing. I never thought about rotating it to the back of my head. So many good tips. Oftentimes I re-listen to the podcast because there's things that I miss. So I take my notes when I'm re-watching. But thank you all so much. Much love to all of you. Stay happy, stay blessed, and have a wonderful holiday